is the second part of Table Flippin' Board Games, where we're going to review the game we just played, which, if you didn't watch the playthrough and you're watching on YouTube, first of all, check it out. It was really fun. And we played Legendary Encounters, an alien deck building game. So this game was based obviously off of Alien, and you mentioned that you can play all of the Alien films, but not Prometheus. So that's important. If that's important to you,
And it shouldn't
it's
be.
understandable. Yes.
Yeah.
But Game Face, just maybe a rehash about this game, who made it, etc. We can start there.
Yeah, the game was actually made by Upper Deck Games. So if you're old enough like me, being ancient, when I think of Upper Deck, I think of sports cards. They actually started out as a sports trading card company. They actually then did get into the trading card game. They were the first to do a World of Warcraft trading card game. I played a little bit, wasn't hugely impressed. It was another collectible card game, and I wasn't really too much into those. But the boxes were kind of neat, and the cards were neat. But then they actually lost the license to that. They did also publish the Yu-Gi-Oh game for a time, but then they lost the rights to that as well. And this is, to my knowledge, as far as the research that I've done, the Legendary Marvel deck building game and this Legendary game are the only games they're still actually publishing. I haven't played Legendary. I've seen it played on tabletop, and I've only played Legendary Encounters, but I really like the engine. I'm sure we'll talk about that mechanics and stuff next. But that's kind of the background. Left.
So, and we mentioned that they're planning on coming out with a Predator version.
Right.
You can put all of the mechanics for the deck building into the same, so you can actually put them together, which I find very neat. So you can kind of like build your own world, like Marvel and Aliens. Maybe kind of makes sense. I think that's really neat.
Yeah, you can have superheroes from the Marvel universe against aliens. You can have aliens versus Predator, which of course was such a good idea. They had to make movies about it. So there's those ideas are out there.
So I think I would like to start with the art, because it's something that we kind of mentioned throughout. And you said that this game is actually rated for 17 and older. So it's like a rated R board game, just like the movies were.
Right.
And the art kind of like adds to that. There's obviously some art that is like there's some gore on the cards. It's hard for me to think that gore on a card though translates into, I mean, that one's pretty bad. That's like one of the worst ones I thought.
Yeah, the massive blow is pretty bad.
Yeah.
But again, I wrote some notes down. I said it's not really anything worse than you'd see on a TV-14 cable drama like Walking Dead or anything like that. So
that's true.
Yeah.
Maybe they did it just because the movies were, and they kind of wanted to stay true to that. Some of the quotes they use do have some cuss words too, but again, at least in ratings now, you can actually be pretty liberal with cuss words.
Right.
Only if there's like, I think, more than one F-bomb, is it considered rated R?
Yeah, I think it's somewhere around
the
that
exact
line.
numbers and all that sort of stuff. So,
yeah.
I don't know. I would agree with you, Game Face. Like, it didn't seem like it was a rated R game at all.
Right. Yeah, I mean, maybe if Dead of Winter is kind of another game I'm thinking of that's a board game that's kind of mature, or it has some mature cards in it that they specify are mature. Again, I think maybe it's kind of that knee-jerk reaction, kind of like the comic books, where it took a long time before mature comic books really were able to get a foothold, because again, that goes back to like the 50s and 60s, where there was a lot of heavy censorship, self-censorship. I think it kind of went overboard because of the fact that they were worried that the government would shut down publication if they didn't censor themselves. So I think the board game industry is kind of doing that a little bit here. At least this company is trying to censor themselves.
Being like overly conservative.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask is there any sort of like standard for censorship on board games or ratings?
No, there isn't. There is for video games and movies, of course, which we're all familiar with those. But board games don't really have that system, and it was actually surprising for me to see that, hey, you might want to play this if you're 17 or older designation on the game. I've never even seen that, even on games that do have kind of a mature designation, even role-playing books that are kind of adult-themed. don't tend to have those maturity symbols on them either. So it's kind of interesting.
I think it's kind of nice that they themselves were like, well, you know, maybe some people would be fine with it, but maybe some people wouldn't. So we'll just put this on here and they can kind of be their own judge of whether or not they'd want their kids to play. I can respect that. I really like it. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say, I'm wondering, what do you think sales wise? Do you think they're taking a big risk making it kind of mature art as opposed to the Marvel deck building game, which is more of a teen audience? Or do you think this is exactly what they needed to do because this is an Alien game? What do you guys think?
I mean, I understand erring on the side of caution, where you want to make the game that you wanted to make, and that way you don't have people mad at you for not like having some sort of warning. I can understand that erring on the side of caution. I think I'd probably want to do that as well.
Yeah, I think the parallel that you pointed out, where the self-censorship early on in a genre, kind of leaning that direction to not push into an area where people feel like they're going to be offended or something like that, and then kind of push back against what you're creating. I think I'd agree with that. That it makes sense that they would do that.
I don't think it'll hurt the sales too much because this is what people want. I mean, that helps add to the atmosphere. It's kind of realistic, or it's what the movies have in it. So.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think it would hurt the sales at all. Like the people who are going to buy this game are going to buy this game regardless. But I think that putting the label on it is a way of giving people an idea of what to expect, and not to go into it thinking that this is a family-friendly game to bring out with grandma.
Yeah, that's true.
Like like it's nothing more than that. It's not going to hurt the sales at all, because I mean, if you've seen Alien or any of those movies, then you know exactly what you're in for. And this is obviously pretty mild.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I think it's cool that art-wise too, they have decks based on the crews, so you're playing the different films, and of course you've got Ripley, who is an awesome female character. So it's really cool that we've got females represented, not only with Ripley, but then the navigator?
Yeah, Lambert.
Lambert. So we had her, and there were lots of cards with them in there, but of course Ripley is my favorite. So I thought it was really cool. There's even though one of the avatars you could play was a female, and she was the scientist, which I thought was really neat.
And it's also cool. Ripley actually has a separate deck in every movie, so you could actually have the barracks completely full with all Ripley characters if you wanted to mix them that way. Yeah, so you could have an all Ripley deck, and then almost every movie except for maybe the third has at least 2 females in it. So half of the barracks deck is going to be composed of female characters, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I'm really pumped about that too, and I love that too because Alien is not super. I mean, it's from the 80s.
Yeah, the first
judging
one,
by Ripley's hairstyle is what I'm gonna guess. Like the first date. Fantastic.
Just look at that.
I know, right? It's a work of art, but I think it's really cool that I think that was, for me,
the
Alien
first one was
one
79.
of the, Wow, yeah. So like I feel like it's one of the first like really cool female like leaders, captains that I got to see.
Yeah.
I think it's really neat. There's a game based off of it.
Yeah. And of course, Ridley Scott is really famous for directing strong female characters. He did Thelma and Louise. Of course, Prometheus also has a pretty strong female character. Gladiator has kind of the queen character who's very strong. So he's pretty well known for creating, or at least going with scripts that have very strong female characters, I think.
And speaking of that, The Martian, we'll have that soon. Although the main character isn't female, Captain Lewis is amazing.
Yeah, that's true.
She's going to be awesome. Well, I mean, there's a bunch of really cool girls in that, but Captain Lewis is awesome. But yeah, I think it's really cool to see a whole game made off of Alien, because not only is it a really cool story, it's really tense, which I thought that this game was as well. Although it's strange, I don't know if it's maybe the product that we played, we got so far in, like we actually full cleared, we killed all of the aliens just of the way it came out, but it kind of felt to me like it got easier at the end, and it was a lot harder in the beginning and mid stages of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the mechanic of being able to help people out, the coordinate, is just
Mm-hmm.
insanely strong, especially because you get to draw another card.
Hmm.
So yeah, being able to draw another card with it is just really, really good. Like if you didn't have that, where you couldn't actually draw a card along with, like after you played one to help somebody else out, you'd kind of have to meter it out a little more.
Right. Right.
Your audio is doing
I
crazy
know.
things,
I'm
friend.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is a really cool incentive. I like that mechanic, but yeah, there are times when it's like, wow, I can't believe, we're sitting on 17 or 18 combat and
Hmm.
tons of recruitment points. So I think there is a little bit of a balance issue with that, although it's a cool
Yeah.
ability.
It seems like it's necessary, and I think it's necessary for two reasons. One, in case you get a really bad hand, it's nice that people can join in and that your hand isn't necessarily as bad as it actually looks right away.
Yeah.
But then
Right.
also, I think it's really necessary for making it feel more cooperative. Like you mentioned before, they're not really any cooperative deck building games. They are largely competitive. And so I think it's a really nice added enhancement to a deck building game to make it feel more cooperative, like we are on a team together, we're taking
Hmm.
down these really big aliens at the end. But I do feel like it was a little bit too strong. I'm not sure how you would mitigate that. Maybe it's making the bigger aliens even like tougher, and that might be like
Right.
maybe we were just playing the easiest of the campaigns.
That's true. Alien might be the easier of all
Right.
three or all four.
Yeah. We'll definitely have to check out some more in the future to see if playing against the different aliens or the different versions of it would be harder, because I also felt like this was much easier than I expected it to be, honestly. When the
Mm-hmm.
whole complex stacked up and then we were revealing stuff off the front and the combat zone had two aliens in it, I kind of didn't think we were doing so well, but we handled it pretty easily.
Yeah.
Right. And
Although
like
at any time, if that, oh, I'm sorry.
well, I was just going to say it felt dire, but that is to me what it should feel like toward the end of the game. And
Hmm.
like we
Hmm.
had that mid game and then we cleared it out and then like we just had it clear. So yeah, it just
Hmm.
seemed like timing wise, it wasn't quite where it should have been. But maybe it was just a factor of the cards we were able to get, the combos we were able to start doing really well. That's kind of the case with games like this is the next play we can just get destroyed.
Yeah.
Right.
Honestly,
Yeah, the
I'd like to play it a
self-destruct
few more
seemed like the
times.
last.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say the self-destruct seemed like the last difficult thing, and that was actually pretty
Hmm.
close because we would have had to have drawn 3 strikes. It's possible any one of us could have gotten killed
That
from that, but
Yeah, that would have been really bad. I think that the self
yeah,
destruct is probably the most dire thing, but because we could all help each other out, and we had
yeah,
drawn the sergeants in the beginning, it wasn't that bad.
And
Um,
yeah,
we'd cleared stuff out so much
yeah,
too.
yeah, and we
right,
cleared
right.
stuff out. We definitely need to play it again to see how the balance works with just a different card draw, maybe a different set of characters. Um, but it
Yeah.
it might have been interesting, like because we were just kind of, once we got the deck completely down, we were just kind of dominating through I think the entire third
Right.
phase. It
Yeah.
might have been interesting if the game had a mechanic in place to refill the complex, like at the beginning of the third phase or something like that. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. That's
if it's
true.
empty or if it's
Yeah.
below this amount, then you just fill it up to this amount with either cards from the discard pile or, so like you get the level ones to come back again. So you actually have to do something to
Mm.
manage them. Um, because
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
I
true.
felt
That
like
would
once
be
we had
good.
everything out, then we were just kind of picking them off one at a time. We could burn our entire hand just taking out one thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, we just lost video.
Oh, Skype decided that we were done.
Yeah.
I'll call back.
Okay.
So, but in the meantime, was there any other thoughts that you guys had?
Um, psychologically, what's going on with the video now? Can can you call it? Because it's like dark.
Yeah.
And Game Face Killer, can you answer?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, are you okay? I don't see his video. Do you see our video though? Because that's all that
Yes.
matters.
I
Well,
do
I
see
don't
your
see his yet,
videos.
but
Okay, we can't. Can we actually end the call completely? Thank you. There we go.
Technology.
Yeah. We needed it to like completely end. So now can you turn your video on, Gameface Killer?
I sure can.
Okay, there we go.
You might still be muted.
Psychology-wise, like I wasn't really horrified. I didn't really feel like I got the feel from the film-wise. Well, okay, I take that back. One time I did, and that was like the face hugger.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a really cool mechanic, and that made me be like, okay, this is really bad. I've got something on my face. I need it to get off right now. That was really cool. I liked that. But I think I want to feel in a cooperative game, like I mentioned before, like it gets really, really dire toward the end. I want the game to keep up with me, and I think they have the mechanics in place. It just didn't really keep up with us. And like we mentioned before, it's a product of either how this particular game went or this particular scenario, if it was the easiest.
Right.
So I definitely want to play it again. I did love, like I mentioned before, I really loved the art style, and I felt like it really like brought me back to that 80s feel, which is fantastic. The art is amazing. Overall, I really enjoyed this game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What
me
about
too.
you,
I think the art style
any?
really did a good job, like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the game. I think it's fun. I think it's light enough, and normally the gameplay is a lot faster. Maybe just because we were starting out, we had some weird things happen, and we went through the entire deck. And that's very, I think that's got to be rare. It should play a lot faster too.
Yeah,
so that's kind of
we just got a really long. That is one thing that I wanted to mention though before we go is the mechanic of how the deck went. I liked that there wasn't like we needed to be doing this other thing on top of like fighting on top of this.
Mm-hmm.
We played very simply. It was like we have the deck building part and we have the exploration part, and the exploration functions as both the combat and what we need to do. And I think that's really cool. What did you think of that, Ogre?
Yeah, I thought that was a really nice way of doing that, because we've played enough games together to know, or for you to know, that I don't like it when a game forces you to do one thing in order to succeed at the game and then judges you whether you win on something else. So like I really like that. If like my deck, I could focus on getting a lot of attack, and I could actually contribute to the ability to finish the game by by searching as well. If we had like a third mechanic in there that was the search, then I'd be twiddling my thumbs most of my turn, where I was like, oh well, there's nothing to fight, so I guess I'm gonna wait for something to happen. Yeah. So I really like that they did that. I agree with you that it could have just been a product of how this particular game went, but it may need a little tuning to make it more difficult. But we will find out.
I think it's cool too that they really stuck to the story, like with the synthetic.
Yeah, the Ash showed up, and Jonesy, the cat, which we almost got.
That is so cool that they have like these little tidbits to really reward, because they know people who are going to get this most likely are people who love the film. So the fact that they really stuck true to that, I think that and the 80s are my favorite parts of this game.
Yeah. And I love that you don't have to know everything that's going to happen in the game before you start. So not knowing what exactly you're going to do for the objective is cool. And also the fact that you're not just going to get enemies that are going to come out of that hive deck. You're going to get possible allies, and then there's going to be special enemies that you might have to prepare for, like Ash at that one point with the synthetic. That's some very cool elements. Those are some of my favorite things about the game, is that it's simple to teach. You don't have to get overly complicated thinking about objectives too much. Everything kind of will come together pretty well.
Yeah, it seems like a really good gateway game. We talk about games to try to get people into playing more board games that aren't like apples to apples, or the very standard like games that people know. I think that this is a good one. It's like, yo, you like the movie Alien? Check this out. And then from there you can be like, actually they have this in Marvel too, and then you can kind of get them more and more into board games.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good point. All right, any final thoughts before we go?
I think that's it for me.
Awesome, me too. Well, thank you guys so much for playing this. Thanks for bringing this to us, Gameface Killer. I think it's a winner. It was a lot of fun. And
glad you guys liked it.
Yeah, thank you guys for watching, hanging out with us, whether it's in the VOD or hanging out with us live throughout. You were a lot of fun. And be sure to leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought. Next week, we'll be playing another game, and we're going to have a guest as well. And be sure to watch the Misscliks Twitter, because we will be announcing all of that as we have them. But until then, be sure you're following Misscliks on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter for updates about this show and other ones. You can find our Twitters as well on the overlays. We'd love for you to talk to us about board games. If you have any suggestions of games to cover, that would be awesome too. And with that, thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye. See you guys. Nice.
Yeah.